All right, so in this example, we're going to take a look at configuring very basic wired policy. And everybody's been making so much noise about the new IBNS 2.0 that we talked about. I thought I would just attempt to show you guys how easy it could be to set that up. But actually, before we get into that, let's come over here into our ISE node. Let me straighten that up. And let's make sure that our policy set is just set to allow for wired. We haven't done that yet. So let's come up here. We're going to insert, let's insert new rule above. We're going to call this wired access. And we want a new condition of a wired device. So we're going to throw that on there. So we're just going to say wired access, or let's just go ahead and use device type. I'm a big fan of that one, of course. So we're going to say network device and then device type. And I've already specified this in the list over there. Wired save. Actually, we want to use. And then we're going to give it the default network access here. Oh, come on, man. Hang on one sec. Got to figure out what the heck is going on with that. It's the timeout. For some reason, the timeout, whenever I'm consoling in using PuTTY, if that times out, then the session times out. Super weird. All right, default network access. I'm going to click save. And then in our policy here, just because I don't want to make this the focus of this particular talk, we're just going to all user ID stores. There's a default authentication rule, and there's a default authorization rule, and we're just going to change this to permit. Now remember, this never gets activated unless we match it as a wired authentication type. So it's got to be sourced from a wired device. Now, the other thing I need to make sure of just real quick is that under our administration network devices, we need to make sure that we've got, you know what, I'm going to set this up as the default device for now. The default device can be used for all your devices. I'm going to enable it, and we're going to make it very easy, and it means any device that presents itself to ISE would be usable, but I can't actually do that because we already said it's going to be a wired device type, and for that, you got to add it as a network device. We'll just add it real quick. So we're going to do switch 1 and 10.1, 10.1, and we're going to come up here to device type and specify wired device, radius authentication. Let's just go 1, 2, 3. And this is good because you guys will get to see the whole step, right? Adding the switch and then adding the switch from the CLI as well. So that's basically all you got to do to get ISE to start trusting a session from a switch. Now, with this, if you've never configured AAA before, you're going to think this is way easier than it should be, but it's because we're going to do this in just a quick test, okay? So if I do a show interface status, my port 5 here has the host that we're going to be authenticating with. So I'm going to go ahead and just do int K105. We're going to do description, and we're going to say this is Windows PC. All right. But other than that, I don't have any AAA commands. Configured, nothing. Okay. So this is just going to take it from the top. So we're real quick going to do, let's exit out of that. We're going to do AAA new. We're going to do AAA authentication .1x default group, and we're going to do this ISE. We're going to do authentication. It's not identified yet because we haven't made it. Authorization. .1x, or sorry, authorization network, default, and let's do group ISE. Okay, and we're gonna do .1x system auth control. We're gonna throw that in there, and then we're gonna do AAA group. Even though we don't have a group, that's the thing. I'm still gonna put it in here quick. So we're gonna AAA group server radius ISE. There's the name of our group, server name /3. We're gonna get yelled at about that because that's not defined. It's okay. This is just kind of the order I deal with it, and we should have done the radius command first, but it is what it is. It'll still work. So we're gonna do radius server ISE/3, and now that exists. And address IPv4 10.1.10.20, and then we're gonna do auth port 1812, because by default it's going to use the old ports, and we don't want to use those. So for example, you see the accounting port 1646, that should be 1813, which is the new standard. And then we're going to do key, Cisco 123. All right, so now we've built a AAA server group. We've built one AAA server to go in it. We've defined that there. We have connectivity to ISE. We should have connectivity to ISE. All right. So, and then basically with that, we should be able to actually authenticate somebody. I have AD already connected from the Cisco ISE Lessons wireless course. So you should be able to do test AAA. We're going to do authentication. No, sorry. AAA group. It's going to be radius, which will work too, and that's fine. Now we're going to put in employee 1, and then Cisco 123, and we're going to do new code. And let's see. So successfully authenticated. So just a few commands to get the initial integration with ISE done. So that's not too bad. The thing after that, though, is we need to configure this new IBNS2, which means C3PO. Okay, we're using class maps, policy maps, and service policies, kind of like QoS if you can configure QoS before. And then we got to configure the port, right, for the authentication. And in our case, I still got to configure something for the supplicant, which I have not done yet, but we're just going to do that real quick. So we're going to do config T, and I'm going to throw on a policy map, and we're just going to start there. Type, control, we're going to do subscriber, and we're just going to call this, we'll just do this as test. Okay, and it says, this operation will apparently convert all relevant authentication commands to the CPL control policy equivalent. Yes, this is fine because this is the new mode. Now, the thing is that this is, if you wipe the config, if you don't save this, then, you know, you rebuild your config, whatever. But basically, it's going to write to NVRAM, and then once you save it, it's going to be, well, it's not going to write to NVRAM. It's going to write to memory, and then if you save your config, then it's going to write to NVRAM. So you'd basically have to rebuild the configuration, in which case, you know what? I'm going to say no right now. We're going to do copy run. Copy run. Let's do flash. And let's see what the date is. 10/23. All right. So now we'll say yes. All right. So now we've got our new policy map. And I'm just throwing in a very simple config just to illustrate that it can be simple. Now there's a lot more commands that we're going to go over in the IBNS 2.0 module, but it can be simple, and that's my point. It's kind of like whenever I show people the 3 basic commands just to get .1x running on a port once the global commands are done. That's pretty straightforward. All right, so event session started. We're going to say match all. So we want to match, and if you look here, you can match any, you can match all, you can match first. So I'm going to say match all. And we need to put a class in. So we're going to put in 10, and we're going to put a class always. And if you go back here and look at this, it says you got to put in a class number, right? So we're going to put in 10 for our first class number. Class always, okay. And then you've got do until failure, do until success. So we're going to do until failure. Okay. And then now it says we need to put in a policy map action. Okay. So I didn't do the show command up there to show you that, but now we've got to have an action for this. So we're going to do 10, and we're going to do authenticate using .1x priority 10. Okay. All right. So let's see. All right. So this is it. We created a new policy. Hang on 1 second. Whenever you go through that IBNS 2.0, it takes you through all this, and that's the problem, is that you get taken through the whole, I mean, it adds all these commands, right? We didn't need to do that, but it does the minute you type that. So let's go ahead and do show run, and let's do section, and let's do all right, here we go. So policy map control, ours we just called test. So event session start, match all, and then we've got class always, do until failure, authenticate using .1x priority 10. So that's it. We're just going to authenticate until there's a failure with .1x. Pretty straightforward. Now, on our host port, let's take a look at our VLANs real quick. Our host port, we've got 50 as data, we've got 99 as guest. So we'll just put them on VLAN 50. So let's do config T, and we're going to do int gig 105. And then let's throw that on there. So we're going to do switch port access VLAN 50, and we're going to do switch port mode access because it's got to be an access mode. Then we're going to do access session host mode, and we're going to do a single host on this guy. Just a single MAC address is all we're going to allow him to be. And then we're going to do access session port control auto. And then we're going to do our .1x PAE authenticator. Now, we also applied that service policy. So we need to apply that, our policy map. So we need to grab that. Okay, it was called test. So we're going to do a service policy. Type control subscriber test. All right. let's see, show auth. So there's not going to be anything there because the supplicant's not configured yet. So we need to go ahead and configure the supplicant in our case. So let's see. All right. Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump over here to our supplicant. And I've got a Windows 10 machine that we can jump onto. All right, so the first thing we do to configure the Windows supplicant is we need to go to services. This is not on a domain or anything. I just wanted to do a quick example for everybody on the C3PL and IBNS 2.0. So we got to come down here to the wire auto config service, and we're going to start that bad boy. And this will allow our .1x supplicant. We're going to say we do want it to be discoverable, but it's going to start our .1x supplicant on that Ethernet interface. So now if we come over here under the adapter settings for this guy. Sorry about all that. Let's go to properties. There's our authentication tab. And under this settings here, what we're going to do is just uncheck verify server identity because we haven't set any of that up. And then we don't want to automatically log on. So we're going to just choose OK. And then it's going to pop up and ask us to authenticate. Actually, let's just put in our username and password real quick. So we're going to put this in as user authentication. There we go. Now it should pop up. There we go. So employee 1 and AD was already set up, right? The integration there was already set up. And it looks like we're on. I don't know. Let's check ICE and see if that's all there was. All right, so let's go here, show all session. We've got a port that is authenticated already. And this was using IBNS2. What do you mean? What? It's pretty straightforward, right? Not much to it. Of course, it does get complex really quick. There's a lot that can get complex. We haven't set up any kind of profiling or anything like that. This is just .1x. What am I doing? Get out of there. Now, if you want to see detailed information, you got to put in details, and there we go. So show access session interface 105. You can see authenticated as employee at Wi-Fi training.local, single host mode. I'm authorized. Straightforward. Now, if you check this over here on ICE, if we go to our operations and live logs, that was last 60 seconds. So let's change that back to 30 minutes. There we go. So this was that our authentication here. And there was a profiling that took place, but we still got authenticated just fine. We use PEEP, and yeah, so, you know, it wasn't that bad, right? Again, we've got a whole module to talk about this. I just wanted to alleviate some fears. I know a lot of clients have asked me over the years, they're worried about going to IBNS 2.0. And before we got into this module about the new Identity-Based Networking Services 2.0 and started explaining the differences in the architecture there, I just wanted you to see how simple it could be, that you could get this up and going in just a few minutes. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let's get started with IBNS 2.0. See you in there.